Travels of Terror, Strange and Spooky Spots Across America. The Bram Stoker Award-nominated horror duo of Kelly Florence and Meg Hafdahl is ready to take everyone on a journey across America's creepiest dark tourism locations. Grab your flashlight, garlic, and ghost hunting equipment. We're taking you on the ultimate road trip of the spookiest places around the United States.
We have two events to announce now, because we have the October 11th event at the West Theater in Duluth. Laugh Till You Scream at 9 p.m. It is a combination of stand-up comedy and horror shorts, as well as an October 6th event at the Woodbury 10 at 6 p.m. And it'll be Farx Brothers Presents Pilots. We're going to show Canusa Street and, I believe, a Hitch List, as well as some of our shorts. And Zach will be there, and I will be there as the filmmakers, and I think we'll have the same we have the same comedians committed.
All right, Tapan, what was the movie you were talking about?
No.
Escape from Dannemara's limited series.
Limited series by Ben Stiller, yeah.
How do you spell it?
Dannemora. Dannemora.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Anyway, yeah, so Transformers 1 looked good, though, right? Or got good reviews? Or I mean...
All right, we got to talk about Escape from Dannemora
I've seen a poster, and
I watched 5 episodes of Dannemora when it came out.
Oh.
When I could get it from the library within a year of when it came out, which was years... It was pre-pandemic.
Yep.
Because that's
what
you made before.
And then I saw it again in the pandemic, and then I saw it again just recently.
Do any of you know what we're talking about?
No idea.
Escape at Dannemora, Paul Dano, Benicio del Toro, Patricia Arquette.
What was the name? I know those names.
Ben Stiller directed it, and it's like it's incredible. He's directing it like he's fucking Scorsese. Like it's so good.
It's a prison drama.
It's based on a real thing. It's based on a real event.
It exists or it's in the making?
No, it already happened years ago.
Wow. Yeah, 2018.
What's it called?
Escape at Dannemora.
I've never heard of that.
7 episodes. I know that's why I try to remember to bring it up.
I didn't finish it, and I just I'm not into Severance, and I don't understand.
I'm not into Severance either, and that
we can't agree. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Severance is. I don't like Severance. People love it, and I'm like, it's slow and boring. I can't. Each hour of it feels like I'm sitting there. I've sat there for 6 hours, and I'm like, this is. I also it hurts that I know that the person who wrote the pilot. Whoever then took it basically took things out of the pilot and stretched them over the season, so it's less dense. I'm using dense as a good word in this sentence. It's less dense, yeah. And so I'm like,
it has more information.
It stretched it out in a way that I don't think it needed to be. And anyway, I won't finish Severance, but I heard the finale is phenomenal. I'm like, that was fine. Okay.
We gotta get.
Escape at Dannemora is just really good. It's just the acting, the directing. It's unlike anything.
It's a prison drama. Is it kind of like?
I know, but it's hard.
How is it different than Orange Is the New Black? That's an example.
Okay, because not to spoil it, but it actually ends up being a deconstruction of a prison thing. So what they do is they completely flip things in episode 6 in a way that makes you go, oh yeah. So again, it's actually this isn't kind of a spoiler, but like episode 6 is basically a big flashback episode before the finale, and you go, oh. And again, that's all I'll say. But anyway, you go. So the whole thing is it fucks. It's complicated. It fucks with your. I think it's basically ultimately about the power of storytelling, which sounds kind of silly, but it's like the power of what you can do to get to. Yeah, I don't know, because most prison dramas are about like you want them to get out, right? That's the whole point.
Do you end up not wanting them to get out at the end? Just yes or no. I'm okay. It's spoiling it. None of these.
Well, so the thing is, even the pilot, and even the poster spoils the fact that they you see that the poster is them on the outside, so you know, and like that they got out.
Clearly they didn't, because they made the story about them getting out and then somebody caught them. Okay, never mind.
Right.
That was a dumb question.
No, but that's a good point. You can look up, because it happens based on a real thing. You can look up what happened, and that's a spoiler. So then it really just becomes about these characters and what these writers and the director did to make you just play with your empathy. It's just it was really interesting, and the characters are just really.
We're gonna hit something I know we all saw.
Back to Transformers, yeah.
No, only Kirk saw Transformers 1, and I don't think he's gonna honestly argue with me about how it's about Marxism. It's about taking over the means of production. we've all seen The Batman, and The Penguin just started, and
I haven't seen The Penguin, but I've seen
I know most of you have not seen have any of you seen The Penguin other than me? No, but you've all seen The Batman. Nick, you didn't like it, so talk about why you didn't.
Well, so the first, I don't know, maybe the first hour I liked. The visual, the vibe reminded me of like something like, God, almost like Seven maybe.
Yeah.
But then there's too much Catwoman. There's too much Zoe Kravitz with her one expression.
You don't like Zoe Kravitz?
No, I don't think she's that good of an actress.
That's why you guys see the movies she directed. I'm just sorry. Keep inserting that.
That she directed?
Yeah, that doesn't help her acting.
That doesn't help her acting.
Yeah,
That's
what do you
separate.
mean?
Like,
she is a storyteller, and I look at her as
I wish
a
she
macro
told stories
story.
with her face.
Yeah,
she
but
can't
you have to
with
give him
only one.
examples where she acted in, not that she directed.
Okay.
she was good in that Soderbergh thing that came out in the pandemic.
Oh, I can't remember that. I saw it, but I don't remember it.
It's a person's name.
Kimmy, yes, thank you. I can't remember anything.
But you're right. All I can imagine is her making that same face.
She was in High Fidelity, and I remember feeling a variety of ways about her. It was mostly a romantic and business journey. I love her as Catwoman. I prefer her to Anne Hathaway, not as a slight to Anne Hathaway. I thought she's good too. Michelle Pfeiffer is the best. Probably.
Yeah.
Eartha Kitt is up there. I watched, that as a kid, and Harriet the Spy. So.
Well, it got too overstuffed, I think, and complicated, and like if you're trying to cram in Catwoman in the first of your Batman, your rebooted Batman, one of many rebooted Batman franchises, I think you're cramming too much in if you're already trying to cram in Catwoman into the story. And
you had no problem with the Penguin?
I don't know. It just seemed to. I don't know. It didn't stick out like a sore thumb the way like it didn't feel like. Because like at this point I don't even remember who was the main villain in the Batman. Well,
the Riddler is
Paul,
the main
Paul
villain.
Dano.
Paul Dano.
Yeah.
Is it Dano or Dano? Like
Dano, yeah, but he's the main villain, but he's actually probably seen less than the Penguin.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because he doesn't really show up to the end. Yeah, so
I don't know. This one of those things where it's just like it's a little too much world building in your first go at it, like where
with the Penguin or with the Batman.
The Batman, like
okay.
You got Catwoman that you're gonna start these. You kind of get the feeling that you're starting these stories without giving them any clear ends. That's world building. You're teeing a bunch of stuff up. You're teeing up I've heard the Penguin show is really good, but still you use the Batman to tee up a show that's gonna come out 2 years later. That's not like good filmmaking, I don't think.
I thought the Batman was fine, but not as good as any. I was thinking about this, not as good as any of the Nolan Batmans, and not as good as I'm not like a Nolan like fanboy, but he's not good as any Nolan movie. It was fine.
Yeah.
It was good, I would say. I would say it's pretty good, but I'm like, I don't think there's anything that I remember, like really remember about it as being like.
Yeah.
When I get out of like one of the original Batman movies, I mean, the Nolan ones, like
Nolan
you feel high. Like there's certain movies where you just feel like it took you to another. It just like the level of filmmaking, and I don't know. Matt Reeves is good. Like I actually loved like his.
Planet of the Apes movies.
Yeah, there was two rather. The second and third.
He did the second and
those
third
were really
in the
good.
trilogy.
Yeah, those were really good and underrated probably, or under commercial or critically they did well. I don't know if commercially how they did.
They did commercially better than the one that just came out. Here's where I'll say why the Matt Reeves Batman is better than what you see in the Nolan ones. Scale. The scale in terms of the stadium and the flood. That's different than the boats in the harbor.
I like that set piece. The boats in the harbor is definitely better.
Yeah, that had
moral dilemma.
Yeah.
But they're different in scale. I didn't say one is better than the other story-wise. I said scale. I was drawing a distinction.
Argue the boats had more scale.
Yeah,
had more
scale
stakes.
without attachment to
One's like a small, look, it's like a limited location. One is like,
It depends on if you value, like, the violation in that one is that, no, the common man, even the worst of the common man, isn't willing to just blindly kill his fellow man, whereas Batman is willing to be a fascist and look inside everyone's private data, versus a city being destroyed by, trying to stop evil with the flood that comes in at the end of the Batman.
No, it looked cool, but it wasn't as compelling as the sort of quandaries that, like,
I'm saying
Nolan
one is
had
more
done.
internal, one is like, in one, Batman is not a hero, and the other one, he is a hero. Batman is not a hero in The Dark Knight.
Right.
He is a hero in The Batman. So it depends on the flavor you enjoy. And again, I love both of these movies, but they're both, 10s. I don't know.
I don't know if
reason
they're
you
both
say
10. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, this if Nolan's didn't exist at all, I think this would be seen as like
The Batman.
like a masterpiece of of like, oh wow, this is what you could do with Batman. But I think it just suffers from, like, his were just so good. Like, even The Dark Knight Rises, which people kind of like, I thought that was really, really, really good.
It's a little long. I would say this uses the time better than the more episodic. The Batman 2022 uses about the same amount of runtime, difference of like 10 minutes.
Well,
maybe.
actually, one big thing, the weakness is actually, so Paul Dano's a great actor. Speaking of Escape of Dan Amore, he's incredible in that. He gets almost nothing to do in this, and the character is actually kind of weak and pathetic. I know that's the point, that he's actually a weak and pathetic character, but that ends up just being a weakness of the movie.
That's like saying Kevin Spacey doesn't get enough to do in Seven.
I know, but it's just, it's a letdown when you find out. With Kevin Spacey, it's the opposite. It works to when you find out who it is, you're like, oh wow. And this one, when it's like, it's Paul Dano just at the bar or whatever, not doing anything and just being a limp, you're like,
Tapan arguing that he was not let down by Kevin Spacey, but was let down by Paul Dano.
Plus, I mean,
Sorry,
like,
Kirk.
it just, all the elements, like the interrogation seemed very similar to stuff I've seen.
Everything is a
I don't
pastiche
know.
of stuff that has come before it. First
Yeah,
and foremost.
yeah.
Take a shot for every time you say prestige.
And I'm like,
I said pastiche.
And like thumb,
Yeah.
I'm remembering things like thumb drive. I'm like, that's dumb. I mean, like, I might do that as a joke, but I would say that as a joke, but I'm not gonna put that in it. I'm not. If I'm the fucking Riddler, like, I don't know.
100%.
Some of that
I
stuff
love
just seems
Batman
silly.
saying
Thumb drive, like doing it in like a deep. I do like the emo sort of like him reckoning, him fucking up. He's like, it's sort of like Batman Year One. It's good. I'm not
it's
shitting on the
Batman
movie.
Year 2. How dare you?
I feel bad because, like, it is a good movie, but then you compare it to, like, what Nolan did, and you're like, oh, it's just not as good.
Well, that's the opposite of Nick's problem, is that he doesn't like when they're building worlds for other movies, and you don't like that this movie is burdened by what has come before it.
This movie?
No, I agree.
The Batman
I'll agree
is
with what Nick's saying too. Actually,
No.
Not
This
burdened
movie
by it.
doesn't have the problem I feel that you are describing, because they're aware of that, because they cut out the Joker scene that is only fan service and slows down the plot to repeat things. For
Well, so
people.
just because they cut some of that stuff out doesn't mean that there wasn't more they
I
should have
want
cut
to know
out.
who
But
he
if they
wants
cut
to
out all of
fuck,
it, they wouldn't
Nick.
have a movie.
He wants
Wait,
to fuck
because-
Catwoman.
Wait, sorry.
That's why
actually,
she's in the movie.
I'm remembering the Catwoman scene where she has to make eye contact with the bad guys. That rises to the level of brilliance of, like, that's an all-time. That's a good
Are you
all-time
baiting
scene.
yourself right now?
Yeah. Because I've always seen it once, and I'm like, I'm trying to defend it, and I'm like, yeah, actually, that scene of her, the idea of, like, she has to make eye contact with, like, the worst people in Gotham,
So that Batman can
for
see
long
them.
enough so
Yeah.
that he can, like, track, get their profiles for
Yeah.
5 seconds. That's a great scene. That's a really cool, kind of like the ships in the harbor scene, of just like that dilemma of, like, I was like, okay, cool, I haven't seen that before, and that was really cool. Yeah, I don't know.
Chris-
Oh, I also like that he saved the Asian guy in the beginning. Anyway, whatever. Yeah, there's lots of good stuff here. I don't know. I mean,
You can have good scenes though
Yeah.
in movies that don't overall work though.
yeah,
I find that all
I
the
think
time.
I think that's the thing. I think that's the thing. Yeah.
What is it about the overall arc of this 3-hour movie that is wrong? You say him who he's interested in banging.
There's too much.
Doesn't work.
There's the fact that I can't remember, like
Right.
there's too much going on.
Yeah,
Like, why do you need the Penguin and the Riddler and Catwoman all in the same fucking movie?
It's not that they needed them, it's that they all serve different functions. The Penguin is an antihero, the Riddler is the antagonist, and his love interest is Catwoman. And if I told that to you and then showed you this movie, you'd be like, well, that's true, but it was clearly an homage to 90s noir thrillers, which were a throwback to 70s noir thrillers. And God bless someone giving that.
I think you're giving the movie too much credit.
No,
on
I
that
think you're right. I think you're right. That's what he was going for, and I think it does work. And it's just, yeah, I don't know. It didn't leave me with that high feeling of like, oh wow, this is something.
Okay, so do you blame the Batman for not being the epitome of artistic achievement, or do you blame the economics of the industry that says the only way you can get a riff on a Martin Scorsese movie is if the guy who directed The Hangover 1, 2, and 3 calls it Joker? Because, hey, doesn't everyone want to see the king of comedy meets Taxi Driver? Duh.
I think Joker's kind of dumb, too.
You don't have any fun in your life.
Joker is just
Other
like,
than this-
hey,
this podcast.
let's film him dance in slow motion downstairs. And the second one looks like it's more of that, so I don't have any interest in.
Yeah.
You're not going to be on the pod?
I'm not going to watch Joker.
Spoiler
2.
for next week.
Oh, look at him dancing in slow motion again down the stairs. Oh, now he's got Lady Gaga dancing with him in slow motion on the stairs. I don't give a fuck.
What if they sing?
Even worse.
You don't like singing?
Not from them.
Have you ever seen singing in movie you've liked? Singing
But
in
Lady Gaga, she'll bring the singing. She'll bring
bring
the
the singing,
I don't know
but I
about
just
Joaquin
don't
Phoenix.
She was
care,
asked to
like-
sing worse, apparently, by Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh.
But how did you feel about Save the Born?
Star is Born?
Star is Born, thank you.
I liked it actually. Yeah, I didn't think I was gonna get into it. I was like, all right, and then I was like, oh, actually, this is pretty good.
It came out the same time of year as a Joker movie, but it came out the same
Oh.
weekend as Venom. And we saw Venom
Well, it's better than
first.
Venom. Yeah. I mean, yeah, Venom is incredibly stupid, and I'll watch the third one. I will.
Because
Because I saw the first two, and I'll watch that one. Yeah.
What I'd really like to do in the October pods is make Nick Farx watch the Venoms and debate whether or not they should exist. Just watch one.
They
Well, I
shouldn't be-
watched the first one back. When
Yeah, they
You
shouldn't
did see
exist.
the first one?
I did see the first one.
I thought Tom Hardy's performance is phenomenal.
Well, sure, but I don't.
He's a good
the
actor, obviously, but-
the movie was
Yeah, the movie-
mediocre.
It's a medium to see a comedy movie that is about like an existential person talking to themselves comedy movie.
No, but Upgrade is a better version of Venom.
Yeah, I'd say Upgrade is a much
Upgrade
better
is
Venom
basically
movie.
what.
I'm glad Venom flew so Upgrade could walk at the like.
I think
that was
Upgrade,
made for
I think
$5
Upgrade came
million.
out before. I think.
Oh, they
Venom
came
did
out.
not fly. I mean, it made a lot of money, but it's still a terrible movie.
I disagree. Venom's terrible.
No, it's objectively terrible. It's not. There's nothing.
How is it objectively terrible? It's entertaining. It's meant to be
lighting.
entertaining.
I'm not even sure.
You guys see, this is your problem: is you can't enjoy fun.
No, I do. I did watch it, and I enjoyed it for what it was. And the whole time I'm like this. I'm thinking this is not a good movie. This is not a good movie. This is not a good movie.
I think that's important to keep in mind. If it's meant to be entertaining, it can be fun, and we shouldn't have this. It's objectively terrible going into something like maybe an October 6th production.
I mean, again, when you know the other Spider-Man movies exist, you're like, it just makes it worse, right? Because like, if they existed on their own, you'd be like,
Oh, you're comparing it to the other Spider-Man movies?
no, but I mean, you of course, in your subconsciously, we all have to be doing that. It doesn't exist without Spider-Man. That's part of the reason why the movie doesn't make any sense. It's like oh, it's like having a Joker movie without Batman. No, it's like having I mean, kind of, but like.
They did
still-
one
it
and
does,
then the other
right?
the
It
next
kind of,
year.
it kind of worked. Joker kind of works,
And it
but it's
made
like
double what the Lady Gaga movie made, so
But-
then she's like, I gotta get in one of those.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do Venom.
But that's because we want to see things that are like Batman related or Spider-Man related or whatever. Like that we'll watch something that's
They're brands like Pokemon, which is actually bigger globally than Spider-Man or Batman, which are each franchises under their own.
and they're laughing. I mean, yeah, there's gonna be a Kraven the Hunter movie. There's gonna be
just gonna bring
Okay,
that up. Craven
yeah.
the Hunter movie doesn't have Spider-Man in it
also not
either.
Spider-Man in it.
You don't
Oh,
know
Madam
it
Web. That was so bad, and I'll admit that I did watch it in theaters because I was like, how bad?
I
Can this
walked
be?
out.
I should have walked out, but I'm like, okay, I'm already here.
You
Yeah,
don't need
it's-
Spider-Man to make a good movie.
yeah. You see
I
somebody
love
in a
Madam Web.
Spider-Man looking. That was so. I couldn't believe. Do you guys know? Have you seen
no
it?
one cares if
I
you
didn't
spoil
watch, but
Madam Web.
I've heard a lot about it.
So remember, you know, like how in marketing there's like scenes of them in their suits and stuff.
Yeah.
So that doesn't ever even fucking happen in the story of the movie. They're all hypothetical flash forwards. Like it's basically that stuff. I never saw the trailer, but I'm assuming that stuff was like bait in the trailer.
Yeah, it makes it seem like you're gonna
It's
see
bait
them turn
in the
into
movie. In the movie, it's like,
Yes.
hey, here's what you might see if the sequel is greenlit. Because this fucking guy has these visions of them turning into Spider Women, and he's like, I have to kill them before they become
I have
Spider
a
Women.
good pitch of
And
why that
like,
idea could work.
I'm like, I can't believe they.
In Madam Web 2? Okay, here's what happens in Madam Web 2. The New York gets used to the trio, the Charlie's Angels of Spider Women, and then that's why they're not
If it was
weirded
that
out.
level of fun, then that actually could have worked,
Just
but it wasn't.
make that
Charlie's
movie
Angels.
first. Why you gotta make this terrible movie?
I will make
Yeah,
that
yeah.
movie next in my career after October 6th and October 11th work. Then Sony's going to call up and go, hey, you know who's got to make Madam Web 2? The guy who distributed.
That speaks more to the problem, though. Like, everything is setting something up. Just if you have this idea, to just make that.
Make it a live event. You just have to live through that event.
Or just, don't dick around and like make a movie that's just teeing up 3 different other fucking movies and 5 TV shows on Disney Plus. Like, just fucking.
That is not what The Batman was intending to do, though. When it was made, it had a inspiration from outside that brought itself to the property and like adapted it. It's kind of like someone had a good pitch for an action movie and then they turned it into Die Hard 2. It was even a book that wasn't originally in the Die Hard franchise, I think. And so like someone was like, oh, I have a modern spin on The Sopranos, but I can't make a Sopranos show, but I can make a show within the Batman universe that is related to something that, because they just merged with Discovery, that's why these macroeconomic things matter. They're going to double down on properties and not make new things, and they're not starting deals that will pay out 2 or 3 quarters from now. Sorry?
Yeah, but this doesn't feel like that. Like, where, there's just here's a more noir whatever version of a story, and we're gonna make it a Batman movie. That's not what it feels like. It feels like we have to fucking sell. We have to tee up a Catwoman fucking movie. We have to tee up the Penguin TV show in 2 years. That's what it feels like.
I feel
how
does it feel like they're teeing up a Penguin
because
TV
now
show
because we have a Penguin fucking TV show now 2 years later.
No,
that's
just
why.
because something happened.
They were planning that. Damn well they were planning that from the start.
No, they weren't, because the pitch was created by someone outside the creative team of the first and what will be a second movie.
What do you mean the pitch was created by?
There was a separate woman who came from outside of the creative team of Matt Reeves and the co-writer of the Batman movie, who pitched the Penguin TV show. And I don't know her journey, but if I had to guess, she had a crime TV show that she reformatted to fit a popular property that they were able to make, because the Penguin was not on the docket when they greenlit the Batman. That's just not factually the case.
Well,
of history.
then it's still poor. Like, why do you have so many elements in a movie?
You're bringing extra things to it, though. Like in
They
Batman
brought extra things to it.
Excuse me. In Batman stories, which I'm more familiar with than you are, they often have what you would consider multiple participants of his rogues gallery, people who have been independent villains in popular culture from movies that came out since 1989, obviously, but even in the Batman movies, they had multiple villains going forward from the second one on.
Oh, hey, Nick, have you seen other Batman movies?
I've seen the first 3 of what started as the Michael Keaton ones. I never saw Batman and Robin, but I mean, like, I know, there's a lot of shit going on there.
Yeah, like
saw all the Nolan ones.
Yeah, but I
saw most of them.
Did you feel those movies had a more cohesive story with the villains in there?
Even with the stuff, well, except for Dark Knight Rises, felt like it had, again, like that one felt like it had a little too much going on, probably because of Anne Hathaway. Like, anytime they were trying to,
I just don't like Catwoman.
And maybe it is. They're always trying to, or maybe you just can't cram in Catwoman that easily into a feature film, though. Maybe that's what it is. Although I don't feel that way about.
Do you like Batman Returns with Michelle Pfeiffer?
I don't feel that way about. That might be the only time they ever did it well. Every other time seems like they botch it. Like,
in the comics, Catwoman has been integrated not as the antagonist, but as both an anti-hero and separately as a romantic interest to Batman. And at other times, she has been an antagonist to Batman. So my point is just that the Rogues Gallery moves through all of the different, like, fictional.
Yeah, but I would argue that Nick is not a comic book guy or a superhero guy.
Yeah, we're
So
not talking about comic books.
I think for a movie to be good, we don't need to have that backstory that Batman faces like 100 villains. A good Batman movie should just exist just as it is. We don't need to have these backstories from comic books and then we gotta watch 5 other movies to get why he has 100 villains. I mean,
and I don't feel that is what the Batman does.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
Go, you take it.
yeah,
Japan.
but you bring it up though. That's part of your defense. The comics.
Yeah, you're defending
you
the
are
comic
using
books
the
do this,
comics
but
to
I'm talking
defend
about the
this
film.
movie.
I'm saying Nick is negatively associated from the failure of the much Razzie Award nominated The Catwoman, plus possibly not enjoying the much shat on Anne Hathaway, which I disagree with because I like her in that movie. I'm just saying I like Zoe Kravitz better in The Batman. They came out within 10 years of each other, so it's easy to compare. But Nick is Nick has grown an aversion to this character, I would argue, over the course of 2005, 2013, and now 2022. I'm gonna toss it to Japan to make the arguments I'm guessing he's going to make about why she is essential to the plot of The Batman.
It's not the character itself. It's the fact that most of the time, other than Batman Returns, that character, whenever they're trying to integrate her into it, it seems like it's extra and tacked on.
No, I don't actually remember the plot reason why but that same with Batman.
It has something to do with Penguin, right?
Yeah, that makes
She's
sense.
like
She's under the thumb of Penguin.
Illegitimate daughter of Falcone or something.
Yes, so she's essential to the plot because I feel like Matt Reeves wanted to make a movie about how corrupt government creates this situation that involves Batman, right? And then you've got Catwoman involved as not just a romantic interest, but an essential part of the overall plot of the crime story that seems to be the main antagonist of this movie, more than the Riddler, who is the, character antagonist and the kind of thing we've come to expect from a Batman story being told in cinema.
I feel like Penguin shouldn't be in this movie. If the connection to the Falcones is already Catwoman, then focus on her and her, struggle to get out of the crime family or get into the crime family, get into, working under her dad or whatever. You don't really need Penguin and you don't need Riddler to be involved on that.
To some degree, her relationship to the Falcone is a plot armor for why she hasn't been touched in what would otherwise be a very dicey industry of being I don't know what you call a woman who works in crime club, but woman who works in crime club in tight dresses. That seems to be like a recipe for, hey, sometimes some bad things happen because you see something that you shouldn't, you know what I mean? And so her being related to the Falcone makes it, here's how she's...
A woman who works, you call her an employee, Kyle.
I don't know if she's an employee. She could be a contractor with the Penguin. I don't know that in the organizational chart, the Penguin is
an
her boss.
employee. I don't know.
I don't remember.
But she works with the Penguin. Does she work for the club? Does she work for the Penguin? Because the Penguin works for the people that own the club, as you find out in the TV show, which is not essential to appreciating this
How
movie.
does the Riddler connect to Falcone and Penguin?
He's more concerned with bringing to the fore the intermingled corruption of big business, which is shown through Thomas Wayne running for public office, and the government and crime. Like, big business, government, crime, working together to hurt the proletariat. Transformers 1 is a Marxist text.
Yeah, because what was the thing about... Yeah, because Thomas Wayne was mixed up in...
Martha Wayne was, what's the word, hospitalized or whatever, or institutionalized.
Yes.
And he was technically trying to cover that. Thomas Wayne is trying to cover that, right?
Because he was running for mayor.
Yeah, but how does that connect to the Falcones? Is he
Because
laundering money
Thomas
to the Falcones?
Wayne had repaired Falcone when he had been injured due to his criminal behavior. And that made Falcone indebted to Thomas Wayne, who was a doctor who later runs for public office.
Oh, but I feel there is a lot of stuff going on then. That's so many threads of beats of storytelling that you have to put in your head while you're watching this movie and make sure it all connects together at the end. I don't think it... How do you feel this movie ends? Does it end well at all for you guys?
That's the thing. I was tuned out by the time it got to the ending. I just didn't care anymore.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
The penguin character feels like it was intentionally left there to grow from the series on. Like,
yeah, I don't recall the penguin having a solid conclusion to his character. He just kind of exits, kind of just meanders out of the story.
Cameo,
and that's why I'm saying he's there to tee up something else. Even if they didn't pitch the show till later, they have characters. They're there to tee up something else, because if they don't have a well-crafted end to their role in the story in this piece of content, then they feel extra and they feel like they're teeing something up.
yeah, he's definitely extra to the story.
Yeah.
No, because he runs the main source of quote-unquote legitimate revenue, or he runs a significant portion of the Falcone public empire, which is a cover for their criminality, because that club, you can say through the bar and event center that it is taking in money, and that gives cover for the money that Penguin launders for him. He's an essential lieutenant in the bad guy structure that goes on, as the main focus of the movie is here's how the intermingling of these things has caused this level of crime to rise.
They made him this, but the guy that Catwoman kicks off the building at the end, that that Batman has to save, that Batman broke his nose at one point, the corrupt cop guy.
Yes.
That could have been him. That could have been anybody else in the story that's just a random guy that is a random lieutenant that Batman presses for information that they kill off in the story at some point. It didn't have to be the Penguin. It could have just been some random nobody. They made it the Penguin so they could tie it in to something else, or they could grow from this story.
So part of the reason, if anyone wants to counter that, okay, so part of the reason I feel it's important to reference the original text from which this comes is to emphasize that the repeating of this story has a certain strength to it, was it the Joseph Campbell hero's journey, right? So having an entrenched government bureaucracy that fails society due to a lot of people accepting what is clearly wrong is part of why the larger breadth of public-facing employees and intermingling with the criminals that you can implicate over the course of this movie makes it important to have a breadth of characters. Meaning, it shouldn't be Penguin that Catwoman kicks off a a building, because didn't that guy abuse her friend or something like that? So he's a very specific kind of bad, and then you don't get Academy Award nominated actor to play guy who also assaults someone in what's going to be a 9-figure movie.
Then I would have gone with Two-Face. Why not put Two-Face in the movie? Because he's more government. He's working as the opposite of Catwoman. She's in crime. He would be, trying to do it the right way. That Batman, he has rules, but
Two-Face is white collar. Police on the street is blue collar, in the sense that they're more working class, and Two-Face has graduated.
I know, but I think it would have been a more interesting battling force, because you have too many people in the crime family.
But they nailed that. They nailed Two-Face too hard, so hard in Dark Knight that it would suffer by comparison, which they already are.
They did a great Two-Face when we were kids in the '90s Batman TV show across 2 episodes.
Well,
that was a completely different. Yeah. That was a wild.
Again, I say that the reason
Jim Carrey level of wacky,
There was nothing about this character's portrayal of Penguin that makes him the Penguin. He could have been anybody. There was nothing to do with an umbrella.
The Waddle.
I mean, to play devil's advocate, if that was the case, then you're almost why not just make that guy the Penguin? Like if it started as another character of just well, let's just make him the Penguin. Why it's it kind of makes sense to then just have that guy be the Penguin and then just have him show up a little bit. I mean, yeah, I don't like that, everything has to set up some other stuff. But yeah, I don't know.
You could have made him any character to set it up for a future thing.
But I don't think the point is that he is part of a future thing. I think it's a modern pastiche in a film sense.
I was telling the audience to take a shot.
sorry. I thought I had to take a shot. If you
Go ahead. I'm
sorry,
going to
Kirk-
stop you.
No, they're specifically trying to do 70s and 90s style noir filmmaking on stories that go back 85 years and that's where the pastiche piece comes in of taking an idea like a penguin, which is ridiculous, and how they adapted it in the early 90s. He had literal penguins that followed him around. That would be too ridiculous for this more
Yeah.
realistic universe that is even more ground level and gritty and real than
Yeah, like
the Nolan
changing
universe.
his name from Oz Cobb to Oz Cobb.
Oh yeah, that's
Oswald
weird.
Cobblepot to
Yeah,
Oz
Oz
Cobb.
Oz Cobb.
That's
that's much
weird.
better.
Yeah. Oswald Cobblepot sound like that actually sounds like an old white
right?
name or something. Like it just that
So
sounds.
it's a modernization choice.
Oz Cobb
because-
just sounds like
Where do you think the penguin came from? Like that kind of character, what it's based on something because they developed it in this would have been the 30s or 40s when that character, like a monocle wearing, like you don't think the monocle is specifically necessary when someone adapts the penguin character? Because I would argue I have the advantage of having seen the pilot of The Penguin. He is adapted into being a real life person because of his physical deformity he had to grow up with, and that's kind of what they do, but in such a ridiculous Tim Burton-y way in Batman Returns. So to see it brought into a more realistic setting is interesting.
I think it wouldn't be that weird if he had pet penguins that in like his like the way Bond villains have aquariums of whatever. I don't think it actually would be that weird. But anyway, but it's fine they didn't do that. Whatever. I don't care.
This
but
has a verisimilitude with reality. Like actually owning any type of exotic animal is something that happens in places where you're not in.
Yeah, but that seems like right up his alley of being like, yeah, I'm in a mansion. I've got an aquarium
that would
of.
Break the reality of this movie. Where are animals even in this movie? You know what I mean?
No, but I mean,
Like, it's
if he just had like, oh, he's just a weird, rich, twisted guy that. I mean, why he does call himself the Penguin in this?
See, that would be adding.
'Cause why does he call himself the
No
Penguin?
other people call him that because of his waddle. Because he has a club foot.
Yeah, so
He has a
so
birth deformity
I
on
can
his
totally see
foot.
it making sense to like he just had because he's like he embraces the identity and he also just I don't know. It just seems like a normal Bond
That's
villain
not the
thing to-
character. And again, I've seen I have gone back and watched the movie since seeing.
Like he is
the
eccentric
show.
enough that it's like I wouldn't bet I wouldn't bat an eye if he had penguins for real life. But no, it's fine. Whatever. It's
feel like-
Oscobb just seems stupid. I don't know why they did that.
Regardless if he's Penguin or whoever he is, I think what stands out is that it didn't seem like they gave his character like a conclusion the way like characters in movies used to have when you're not setting up a sequel or a TV show. And like he just kind of waddles out of the story, and like that if it was any other character than like some legacy Batman character, you'd have a conclusion for them. Like even other Batman movies, like you had Christopher Walken, who was kind of like a secondary villain in Batman Returns, but he has a conclusion. Like he gets electrocuted. He doesn't just exit the story.
So the Penguin has his story climaxes at the midpoint because he is a means to getting a further piece of information that uncovers the corruption, and that's before you get the reveal of Catwoman being related to Falcone. Like all these things kind of play into one another because you're worried about the mystery, and if you were to watch it again like you watch a Scream movie, you would see the mystery is very tight. And so Penguin is there because it's an adaptation of a character that's existed for decades and serves a function because in those decades he has typically been someone who is either running for politics and corrupt or he's just a criminal person. Yes, he's also had umbrellas. He's had penguins. Obviously cartoonish and ridiculous stuff, but he has also been more realistic in different versions of the comics. So this is an adaptation of that, not those, other cartoonish things that you've described.
I think when there have been a bunch of other Batman movies that handled characters better, there's no reason for the newest one to not do that.
Break it down to like just story things. Do you have a problem with a character that only serves like arcing function in the first half of a plot and then they take a back seat in the second half of the plot because their character served their function of getting the protagonist and the antagonist to interact in a more significant way going into the second half?
If they're very prominent in the first half, then yeah. Yeah, if they were just there for a couple scenes, then it doesn't feel weird if they exit at the midpoint. But if they're very prominent in the first, and then they just kind of disappear, I think that's what makes it feel weird.
See, and I would point out that there are other as prominent characters that are not specific pieces of IP that existed before this, like the Penguin, Catwoman. There's like the DA, and he is in it as much as the Penguin is, and that makes part of the story important. At just like, oh, you understand the political structure of the people around Gordon, who is always in these stories, and he hasn't come up, but it's Jeffrey Wright in this, and that's awesome. Academy Award nominee Jeffrey Wright.
Well, how long is the DA in it for? I mean, does he...
Like minutes? Are we doing like a Beetlejuice count kind of thing?
No, it's not about screen time. It's about, are they there to serve a purpose like early on, and then purpose served early on, and then they're done? That's different than the Penguin being in this like pretty consistently for the first half and then being whisked away. That's different than like, oh, you got a DA just to set the stage, then a character who's there for table setting early on, and then they just never see him again. That's normal. I feel like that's normal.
Significance to the plot, I think the romantic interest plays more into the second half, and the anti-hero who we've established in the first half, he's the same at the end of the story. He's still a guy running a club who's kind of shifty, and he's had greater traumas in his life that make him the anti-hero we've met today.
Wait, what?
I'm talking about the Penguin.
Okay, because I thought we were talking about the DA, but like...
No, I'm just saying, like, the DA is one of the villain, like, sub-villain characters, sub-antagonist characters. And he plays as much screen time as Tapan brought up. Oh, the Riddler doesn't play he's not in this enough. They don't give Paul Dano enough to do because he's not, like, what is ultimately, I think, the antagonist. This is a man versus, like, something larger than just another person. It's the corruption of a city, because that's why Catwoman says kind of the theme to him of, you're never going to change this city.
No, I'd argue they give Riddler plenty to do. He's setting up all the crimes that Batman has to go and investigate.
The seven.
I'm not seeing any of that. But
it's like it's not about screen time. It's not about screen time. Like
technically,
he's
he
there.
is still doing things. He's still giving stuff to do. Like in Seven with Kevin Spacey, he committed all those crimes, and at the very end, what's that actor's name at the end?
Gwyneth Paltrow's head? Or Brad Pitt?
Brad Pitt, yeah. He breaks down Brad Pitt's character. Like, he does do a lot in the movie.
He gets him to commit the seventh murder.
Yeah, I mean, you can't say that they don't give Riddler a lot to do. I would argue they don't give Bruce Wayne a lot to do. He is not Bruce Wayne in this movie enough, for one thing. And two, Batman doesn't do a lot of detective work in this movie.
And her mask doesn't cover enough of her face to hide her identity. Anyway. Yeah.
I was thinking about Seven earlier because I think that's the movie where I learned that like only 40%. I think
that's coming out in 4K pretty soon.
Well, on the topic of 4K, I think that's the movie where I learned that they only solve like 40% of murders. I mean, now it's up to like 50 or 60, but if you're white, it's 60. If you're not white, it's like 40. And so like police don't solve. So part of what I think Seven is saying is like, why are we paying attention to these 7 murders? Well, simply because they've made them exciting in this specific dramatic thing. And that's kind of what the Batman is saying, is that, yeah, we've got these elements of 80 years of storytelling, but we're trying to talk about how this ongoing corruption in modern living, that's part entrenched bureaucracy, part big business, and part, government that's bought out. Oh wait, one of those is supposed to be crime. Sorry. 40% of murders. Why are we following these 7? Because Kevin Spacey made them exciting. We should be worried about a higher percentage of murder cases being solved, I would assume, right, as a society?
Yeah, but I think that's being too meta. It's like in Law and Order, you follow these detectives on cases, but if you follow the dates, they solve it over like weeks, months. This is how the story is given to us, the viewer.
That would be a great idea for a TV show, is if they just started cutting up Law and Order linearly based on the dates. Because like, wouldn't the trials be months after they make the initial arrest?
And wouldn't the conversations be different if Yeah, because like if they're doing other things.
Well, it
in
could
the
just be
meantime-
like a Game of Thrones style show where you just have to like follow it for months.
That'd be wild if they somehow, yeah.
So I wouldn't say that we're following it because it's interesting. We're following it because that's the way the story is written, and I think that's too meta of a thing to think about. That's like thinking about what the writer was thinking when he was writing this story. We can't. It's taking something from outside the movie and trying to make sense of the movie.
Tapan brought up density earlier in terms of a theme that can be interpreted. I think what this conversation objectively has determined is that there are so many layers to this movie that are interpreting on a theme, and which is something that we could discuss at length of what is Matt Reeves trying to say, and I've made an affirmative case for something I feel. You guys have made some negative cases against things you didn't enjoy about this movie. We're not a review show, we're a bait show.
All right, and I think that's a good place to end because I am seeing a lot of tired faces, so let's end it here. Bye.